Hello there and welcome to ZeroXP. If you are unfamiliar with our content, we mostly focus on Fable. All of our content is posted on our podcast at ZeroXP Podcast or in video format on our YouTube page, which is just ZeroXP. I'm Patrick here with my co-host John.
Hey.
And today we're going to discuss the MMO rumor, why MMO elements shouldn't worry longtime fans, and speculate on what we could see. And the Fable MMO rumor all started with, he's a French journalist, I believe, Chrono Triggered. And he properly guessed the entire, or I didn't guess you would say he didn't guess. He had information. He gave the entire Xbox games lineup, or from the Game Showcase event. He gave it in full detail. And then he came out and said that this Fable game isn't a traditional Fable game, it's actually an MMO, and that sent a lot of people freaking out and worrying. Which sites as Windows Central said that that wasn't true. He said, given the accuracy of everything I've been told before, I had no doubts. He came back and said it wouldn't be a WoW-style MMO, but rather a single-player with MMO elements. Service, co-op with the question marks. He didn't really give much detail, but we do get an idea that this is definitely not a traditional MMO. So let's just go ahead and bring up the fact that MMO elements are nothing new to the Fable series. We've seen it in Fable 2 and Fable 3. In case you forgot, there were hero orbs that you could either have on or off, and you could hear people within a proximity. If they were in the same region, you could talk to people, trade things, gift, look at their stats, send them a message if they wanted to start a co-op game. I mean, there was a lot of things you could do just by interacting with somebody's orb, which was honestly one of my favorite features from 2 and 3, and I'd love to see more multiplayer elements or, MMO style elements going forward, but I do think that the orbs are a little bit outdated, wouldn't you say, John?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have quite the same affinity for the orbs that you do. I actually, I thought they were fine. They served their purpose, but it didn't really, I guess, trigger anything for me.
Yeah, I guess you didn't have the community moments where a bunch of friends would go around dropping nasty nuts to each other.
Oh, I had some of that, and I had things that would unexpectedly show up in my, gifts or whatever, and that was fine. It was just that as a feature, it didn't really just, I guess grab me the way that a lot of other things did. Just kind of segue into it, we know that Playground's doing this game, and we're looking at kind of some of the features that they have with their series, and one of those is the Drivatars. And that's where I think that the orb system, idea could at least evolve into. If they're able to use that same technology, it would be really great to not see orbs necessarily, but even actual heroes from some of your friends list running around in your world.
Yeah, I definitely have mixed opinions on that, because obviously it is a cool idea. In Fable 2 and Fable 3, sometimes you could see a lot of orbs, which I like because it could help you meet new people, but at the same time, you definitely don't want a world filled with too many heroes.
No, I would assume that there would be either the proximity style, thing that we did have with the orbs, or it would be something along the lines where it might be you can limit it to your friends list, and there's probably going to be a cap of amount of players.
Oh, yeah,
at least
there'd have
if
to
this is
be.
a feature, there would be a cap of how many players could be in a region, let alone the entire world.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that would be great, especially if they're aiming to do something where they're bringing back the world of heroes, where it's not where we got towards the end of the series, where there just weren't any heroes
Yeah,
left.
a lot of it depends on the timeline. We don't know if this is a reboot or what, how a feature like that would fit in.
Well, there's also, the possibility that they could bring those heroes into your world, and maybe you could hire them as mercenaries. So say that you took them along on a quest with you, you could actually, make use of them to finish that quest, and then possibly they could bring back gold, or I don't
Loot
know
if
that
they
I'd want
have loot.
experience or anything like that, but, items from the game.
I think that's an interesting concept if they had a place you could go and maybe a few of them were lined up, because you could also maybe find someone that fits your play style. Like if you're evil, you'd be like, walk by, see someone with huge horns, and be like, man, that guy's done some jacked up stuff. I want him on my team.
Yeah, exactly. Things like that. So you could actually use them to help flesh out your world a little bit.
Hopefully, if they did something like that, they would have some type of a rating system. I get that there would probably be some trolling involved, but that way players could get an idea, like, does this person wander off and is no fun or very vulgar on the mic, which you don't care for? Or are they friendly and they follow you?
Bring them into your game, or we're still talking about the Drivatar style?
Well, you said mercenaries.
Yeah, but I mean, you could use AI in that instance.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they could just carry their skill sets over. That would work too.
Yeah, because in that case, then you're looking at flat-out co-op, which is, another thing that I would actually like to see. I don't think that it's necessary, but...
I guess that would be an interesting way to find people that are looking for co-op.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah. Now
really,
I
like both.
The same page there. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing. I like the idea of if you don't want to actually play with people, because there are a lot of people out here, who don't, that you have the option of, hey, Patrick just showed up in my game, so I'm just going to use the shell of him technically to run around and play a little bit, and it helps make my world feel bigger. But at the same time, if that same instance, you could kind of have the Drivatar style, or you do see shadows of your friends in the game, you could just bring them into your world, with the press of a button.
I think it'd be great if there was a way that they could be, if you can still buy property in the games, maybe they're one of the renters in that. Not necessarily in the way that they have to pay you for it, but just more of a visual thing than a...
So you're saying like the heroes actually go on to live in your world in some capacity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great too.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. You walk by, you just kind of see them at the house and like, hey, follow me.
Yeah, and I think that that's possible. It's just a matter of if they would want to implement that in the game, because, I mean, I haven't played one in years, but I know like especially when online first really started picking up steam, the pro wrestling games back when would have it where, someone else's character that they've created would be invading your storyline randomly. So if they could do that and actually possibly even assign you, little one-off quests that maybe don't affect the story or something to that effect. If it's an evil character, maybe they'd try to hit you up for an evil quest. If it's good, then they'd try to do something that would send you on a rescue quest or something.
It would definitely give side quests a unique feel.
And it would give the game some personality without actually having to affect the main story.
Yes.
Yeah, I would totally be down with something like that. So co-op-wise, what do you think? 2 or 4 players, or...
That's really hard to tell because we don't know how large the game is or how their missions are even going to be set up. I mean, it really just depends. If it's a little bit bigger but still along the lines of the first 2, then I would say 2-player. But if they have the ability to maybe scale and, let's say, have more monsters based on how many people are in the game, more enemies and different things, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be up to 4.
Yeah, and I think if they do that, it would definitely need to be more expansive.
Yeah.
Traditionally Fable, while it's... I always said open region, not open world.
Yeah.
In regards to it, and I think a lot of other people kind of adopted that phrase as well. They had big portions of the game, and they had very beautiful portions of the game, but I think in order... And this is speculation as well. I think in order to make it feel more current, I would be surprised if they didn't try to make it an open world game.
Yeah.
Maybe some loading, if you're going into a huge region change, but...
A little bit more Skyrim style.
Yeah, some along those lines, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are really big on the open world. To me, it really doesn't matter as long as they have bigger regions. In some ways, actually splitting it up can make it feel larger. Like, I mean, Fable 1 was a much smaller map, but... Even though I don't want to see areas that small, there's no reason for areas that small now. But in Fable 1, for some reason, splitting it up, I know a lot of people thought it was bigger, but it really wasn't bigger.
It's just a bunch of, I'd say, medium-sized maps sewn together. And I'm with you there. I think that's the thing, is part of me wants to be able to... When you have games that have varying regions, and we've seen it more. If you look at, if you played the last Red Dead Redemption game, they were able to actually make different regions of the map feel like different areas. And I think that's one of the things that Fable did really well was it gave you a diverse kind of feeling about each area in the game.
Yeah.
And I would hope that that wouldn't change.
Oh.
I'd really like to see the major contrast. I mean, with Not Whole Glade, you had the rain. With the Hook Coast, you had kind of that stormy area. With Snowspire, obviously, it was very wintry, and I mean, then there was the spring areas, and later in the games, you had, deserted plains and things like that.
The crazy thing is with Playground's history on the Horizon series, you could maybe get multiples of those in the same region.
And that's kind of where I'm wondering if they'll use that to help change maybe we had traditionally the world morphing based off your decisions. Yeah. If you do that, then you could do seasons and actually see the changes, but at a slower pace instead of all of one trigger at once.
Yep. And another interesting idea is world interactions. The Journey had it where a person would randomly show up and you could co-op and finish things together. Also, Watch Dogs had a little bit of something like that, except you were more of a villain and you could interrupt, which I don't care to see in the Fable series, somebody mess up your game. But I do think it'd be interesting as if somebody would be walking the path at the same time, like an area that they would just randomly load in, and they could either continue on their path or jump in and help you out if you're getting attacked by a bunch of Bolverines or something.
Well, that kind of comes back to the idea of the AI Drivatar versus, and yeah, I mean, I think that would actually be pretty cool if that was something they could do. I'm not completely against the idea of someone doing something villainous as long as it doesn't actually affect your game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
strongly.
If it was optional.
Yeah.
Maybe they're up on a hill and they push a bunch of rocks in your path.
Yeah, I think that would actually be kind of funny if they were able to interact that way. Something simple, funny. But something that's just more of an inconvenience and less of something that's actually going to.
They're just going to keep on killing you while you're trying to accomplish something.
I mean, I'd be a bit surprised if that was something that they could do. I don't know if we're there yet, technologically, but I mean, that would be kind of an easy.
This is a speculation show, so just throw stuff out.
Mm-hmm. You've got Hub City listed here. What do you have in mind for that?
I mean, I guess this could just be one large region with shops and almost kind of like in the second game, people used Bowerstone Market for a lot of times. That was a popular city. They would all get in there. That's where somebody might go and be like, oh, I need this certain item because that's where they were the most populated, and could maybe find someone that's either willing to give that to them or try to trade something for it. But in this case, it would be more basically an MMO city, like a hub town, where you would actually see the heroes running around and you could interact with people.
I think I would want that to be a less story-affected city if you were going to do that. Maybe, I don't know if you'd siphon that off to an online part or... but definitely not something where you're trying to, actually pay attention to what you're doing too strongly, except for interact with.
I mean, it'd be hard not to make that area, like, let's say that the Hero Guild is still in the game, or maybe a certain section of the Heroes Guild.
See, and I think that would be perfect. Yeah, you go into it, it's isolated, but it's like it's a room that's an auditorium that has some stores
or a courtyard,
or things
specific
like that.
Courtyard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that would be great.
And it would actually make a lot of sense if there still is a Heroes Guild in this game.
Oh, I hope there is. I mean, that was one of the things that I felt really lost some of that Fable feeling for me over time, and I understand why they did it for story purposes, but I really liked the idea of having multiple heroes running around. I mean, for lack of a better look at it, I mean, it was kind of like Star Wars when the Jedi were popular. The further you get and the more of that kind of falling apart as the movies go on, everybody just yearns to have it back, where there's a big order of things. So I hope that's one of the things they do. I mean, a lot of that will be dependent on timeline or if it is a full reboot.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see it, and as a hub area, it would be a perfect fit because it would just make sense.
Yep, yeah. All they'd have to do, I believe, is limit, how many people could be or how many people would show in that area at a time. And maybe that's where orbs would come into play, where you would have just these, little orbs running around at the same time. I think you could also designate certain spots in that area to where, hey, I need a mercenary to help me through with this quest or something along those lines.
Yep. I noticed you also have community events listed.
Yes, yeah. I think that at this point, because I don't want Fable to change too much. I am just such a fan of the original series, but there are so many things that have come along in recent years that, like, community events could be great if it's, the crawler for, just to give it something. The crawler comes back and everybody has to work together to do certain things, complete certain quests, and maybe it culminating in a giant battle where everybody has to work against this thing. I mean,
and
obviously,
with a reward.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like, and it could be something small, it could be something big. It's like a weapon or something to that effect, or some special armor, just something that kind of is a badge showing that, hey, yeah, I completed this. Or maybe you do that, you add it to your stats, you get a literal badge that goes on your gamer tag, in association with the game. But at the same time, if you don't want to do any of that, it doesn't take away from your game.
Yeah, you don't lose anything.
Exactly, yeah. Because the thing is I think this would definitely have to be something that would fall under like a side quest type idea, because I don't want it to lose the narrative of a good story within the game.
Yeah, I mean, when we're speculating this, believe us, we're talking about something on addition to a full single-player title.
Yes, yeah. Not to be the primary focus, but just a kind of a bonus feature of the game. Exactly.
So now we're going to focus a little bit more on the multiplayer aspect outside of co-op. I mean, there's a lot of interesting routes this could go. I'm sure many people would hate it, but I think that they're interesting and worth discussing. Do you have any ideas of like how maybe a versus mode would work?
Oh, well, I mean, like, there's definitely things that you could do. I mean, there's been multiple things within games for, 10 plus years now that, if you didn't want to go into a full battle of heroes, which I don't know if I would want, if
a lot of it really depends on how the combat's going to be in this game.
Exactly. But, like Saints Row, I believe, had some in-game events where it was basically just who could take each other out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it could be a race. It could be, you're using missile launchers, or even, I think Red Dead, you can challenge each other to fights, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like a quick kind of game
a fight
like
club.
That. Yeah. Oh, Fight Club would be really good for that,
Fight
actually.
Club would be really good.
Yeah, because it's one of the features that we both kind of wish would come back from Fable: The Lost Chapters. Was in each town there was a fight circle that would come out at midnight, men's fight club.
I mean, it could even be something like a shoot off with objects in an air, and you have your bows or whatever they have in this timeline. And
I think that things like that could be really fun. And that's where I think stats could come into play too, if they wanted to bring those back. Fable 3, literally kept track of everything down to the amount of STDs you might pick up along the way. So it would be neat to be able to compare, I've killed, 5 Balverines. Patrick's killed 100. What has he been doing?
Just killing
like
Balverines. I haven't progressed in the story whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yep.
But a quick sidestep, what do you think about the idea of, and I'm not personally for it, but would you be open to an idea of something like Grand Theft Auto, what was it, 4 or 5? 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 now has it where it's, you have your campaign, you do your campaign that is specifically for you. There's a whole story to go along with it. You've got the open world, you've got full fleshed out characters, and then there's Grand Theft Auto Online, which is completely separate, in which case it basically is an MMO at this point.
Yeah, I mean, well, that one got way off track, and I definitely wouldn't want something like that for Fable.
Oh, no. To where you're basically leaving the idea of the core game.
Yeah,
but I understand that.
16 players on a map, I don't have an issue with that. I have a few things written down. I mean, you could join up and do maybe a 4-player, 6-player co-op dungeon that you could go through. Once again, this is dependent on, we don't fully understand the combat.
Yeah, well, we don't know anything about the game.
But yeah, I like the idea of an RDR online style, and actually to go back to the the verses, I actually thought of an interesting way that could work. Like if you're going through, let's say there's missions, and it's like, well, do you go good or evil? Because you got a group of 6 people, let's say 2 of them want to go evil, 4 of them want to go good. At the end of it, you just fight.
Oh, that would be neat, yeah.
Like if someone wants to kill the traitors and someone else wants to let them live and
Like
everything.
that's the decision that
Fight
has
them
to
out.
be made.
Fight it out.
Whoever wins, that's the way the mission ends.
Yep.
That could be interesting. It also just occurred to me, and I can't believe I didn't think about it before this. Do you have any desire for a, battle royale style
No.
multiplayer for
No.
Fable? The only reason
I
that
mean,
I'm
I
like,
guess it depends on the combat,
yeah, if
so
the
I can't
combat
fully
allowed
say
it,
no,
It could
but-
be neat, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm clamoring for. In any
No,
way.
I think I'd much rather have an RDR style with maybe some storyline elements.
So between the two, what we've discussed already, would you rather it be the style of Red Dead Redemption where you have your online completely separate and you have your campaign completely separate, or would you like something more on the lines of what we kind of started the show with it being more of a hybrid of the two combined into
I
one
think
thing?
I would go with the first one,
Okay.
being a bit more of a hybrid, but I wouldn't mind both depending on how they did it. Because even though because of the morality base, there's reasons I've always jumped back into the Fables, and other games haven't done it as well. But I mean, who wouldn't want a Fable that can or cannot be played with friends on top of a great story that the content is so good, you just keep coming back and there's more content. I know that's a bit of a stretch for what we've seen, but this is a fun speculation show. I would love it.
Yeah, I think that's my thing. Like, given the choice between the two, and I think a lot of it just depends on, the style of game. For me, Red Dead Redemption, where I make my own character and I run around in the same world that, Arthur does from the main story, is great, and that's fine, and it's perfect for me, and I enjoy that. But for Fable, I think I'd like to be my hero.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely, because you're already allowed to, you don't have a preset character. They're not, at least traditionally, they have not just told your story, with the exception of Fable 3 a little bit, where you had a little less kind of nuances with that. I prefer being able to put myself into a role-playing game character, so it feels like it's me throughout the story, even though, of course, this is a giant, fairy tale-based world. I would still like to be able to take that into my online, so it feels like everything I'm doing, I'm still that same character.
Yeah.
Yeah. The division between the two doesn't necessarily appeal to me for this franchise, but I wouldn't be totally against it at the same time.
I guess with the RDR style, I just think it'd be cool to revisit areas, but in a different way than you did before. Like, I'm going to assume that there's going to be an arena in this game, like there was in all the previous main series titles.
And that would give you your versus mode, too, if you
Yeah,
wanted to do it that way.
it could be versus, it could be co-op, 4 heroes go in, battle to the death. There's a lot of ways they could go that. They could go PvP, PvE, a little blend of both.
Yeah, I think they could do it both ways.
Yeah.
And of course the game's not going to be able to do all of these things. We're not speculating that they will. These are just things that we're, thinking that could be incorporated if they wanted to concentrate on trying to incorporate them. So, with the time that we have left, Patrick, why don't you pitch me, if you were to have this MMO or co-op style game, what is your ideal? What are the things that you would love to have and realistically get in there?
Realistically? Ooh.
Okay, just if you go way out there with something, go ahead and say this would be, way out there.
I think I would love, as far as the single player goes, having the Drivatar style over the hub city, personally. One thing I hope doesn't go away is I like being able to just give somebody money. You see somebody working, blacksmithing or whatever, grinding it out and being like, hey, you want money? Yeah. Okay, well, here's 200,000 gold I don't need.
I guess maybe to do that, there would need to be an indicator over if you were seeing a Drivatar versus an actual person.
Yeah.
Which they could do that by, I guess, designating an aura. If
I assume that they would, like a hero would have a more specific look that you would just recognize over an NPC.
No, but I'm saying, like, if it's, because when you're playing games like Forza, the Drivatars, the cars just look like cars, right?
Yeah.
But you do know that it's not the actual people playing.
Yeah.
If you're going to have random ones, I guess
Oh, yeah.
maybe you would do something where it's like maybe they're shadowed in green, and if they're the
Or more
Drivatar
ghostly
version, it
looking.
would be, something along those lines,
Yeah.
or shadow them in blue, something to that effect. So you know it's like, oh, this is a real person.
I guess that's my main thing with the Drivatar style is like I wouldn't want to lose that seeing where people are, because it was kind of fun seeing somebody doing the exact same thing as you were doing. Even in Fable 2, when I played through recently, somebody I could tell was in Wraith Marsh doing the exact same thing, fighting the same troll at the same time, and we just went through there and got to Bloodstone together. And thinking about that over 10 years later was kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. So if you could do that and actually see their avatar, that would be pretty neat, I think.
Yeah.
Even if they had to do like a generic looking one for people who aren't your friends, maybe
Yeah.
something along those lines, that would be neat.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, as far as I guess if they were going to do a little bit more of a multiplayer style, I just love the idea of like a Red Dead style world where there's so many people in your world, you can join up and do dungeons or just really whatever you want, just goof around with friends as heroes.
Okay.
I know a lot of people probably will disagree with me on that, but I think that'd be fun, and I love the idea of the community events.
Yeah. And I think that's my thing is to kind of pivot to the things that I would want out of it that would be MMO style is I mean, everything that we've speculated on the Drivatar heroes, I'm 100% down with. I love the idea. Just love the idea of seeing other heroes.
It seems
around.
very realistic,
yeah,
too.
because you'd get the ones from the campaign in my mind that would, have the personality and they'd have those stories and you would have those bonds with those characters. But at the same time, if, Bob, who I work with, jumps on and he's got, a pudgy little avatar running around, and you can definitely tell and hopefully be able to see from, our personalities, not just, I want it to look cool, but I mean, see the differences, and what the decisions you make and the effects on that character. And you're like, oh, Bob's got a dark side.
Yeah.
This guy must have killed a lot of people. Yep. And to see that person running around, even though they're not playing the game, but they exist in your same world, would be kind of neat.
Oh, yeah.
And I like your idea that you speculated that maybe they get designated a home and that, if you go to, Ashenville, that Bob's going to have his little hut there that's barren, and you wonder why his character would stay there, and occasionally it comes out and it says, hey, I need you to go kill all of these traders down at the trading post. And you're like, I'm not doing that, Bob, because he's evil. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I really like that idea. I don't know if it's possible. We don't make games, but I think something like that would be
or
neat.
It'd be worth the time even.
Right, but it would give your game personality. And the thing is Lionhead did something similar to that in Fable 3, where there was a little online mini game.
Yeah, you could create a villager.
Yeah, and you could create a villager, and that villager would have certain personalities and characteristics. I ended up not liking my villager very much.
No,
She was
I don't like mine either.
very demanding. But still, she had a home. She lived in the village, and I was like, oh, cool, this is something custom that's only in my game.
And they gave you 2 separate missions based on if they were good or evil.
Exactly, yes. So, I mean, I think that it could be done with the possible, Drivatar version.
They wouldn't even need to have
that.
a home. Maybe one day they're sitting on, just assuming Bowerstone Market under the clock tower, and they're like, hey, get your attention. I mean,
and
there's a lot of
that's the thing that
Rust they could do.
fascinates me the most is instances like that.
Yeah.
Beyond that, the hub city, I could see working out really well. I think that's a neat idea. I love the idea that you pitched about the arena being a place where you could actually go and have some PvE. I'm not a big PvP. I'm not a big PvP person.
Yeah.
But, to have that segmented off to an area where you can go to, that would be pretty neat. I like that idea. Especially, if you get the gusto to get a team of people to go head-to-head, that would be kind of interesting to see how that would work out. And that could be even just competitive, taking on other enemies.
Yep.
Again, one of the things I brought up was the community events. I think that would be cool because Fable lore is just ridden with, these 3 heroes rose up to take on this giant thing.
Yep.
And I think that would be really neat to, I don't want it all the time. I don't want it always going, and I don't want it to affect my game necessarily. But I do want to, I guess that's the other thing. That's where you would have to maybe not whole Glade or not whole Island, I guess, at this point, for lack of a better comparison. like maybe that's where you have to go to access the, event, so that it's not actually taking place. It's not something you see in the distance as you're trying to have your own personal campaign. I don't love the idea of there being a separate world like Red Dead style, personally. I mean, I love those kind of games, especially Red Dead or, and Grand Theft Auto is fun to run around with your friends on. And I wouldn't be totally against it, but if I'm choosing between the two, I would definitely prefer that everything happens within your world, so it feels like a living, breathing place. And at this point, we just don't know. There's so many questions that we still have as to what are they doing with the game, what time frame, place within the timeline is it going to be? Is it going to be something completely new? I mean, we don't know these details. On top of, we don't know what they're going to be able to do that they're capable with the Xbox Series X in comparison. I mean, this is kind of unknown territory at the moment as far as what are they actually able to implement.
Well, yeah, I mean, between the technology and the fact, if you want to think about previous Fable games, which I think Fable 3 was around 80 people, and this one, I don't know how many people they have right now, but I do know that they want to get up to around 200 employees.
Right, yeah.
So there's a lot more that can be done there for sure.
Well, and then I didn't think about this earlier, but we recently found out that Halo multiplayer is going to be free to play.
Yeah.
Do you foresee anything like that for Fable? Is that something you would want for Fable?
I don't foresee it, but then again, I don't see the Red Dead world or much of anything like that. I guess it wouldn't surprise me, but there's a lot of questions right now because they're being very weird with the whole Xbox Live setup. There's a lot of secrets around it. Like, I don't know if a lot of people think it's going away. I'm not convinced considering how many subscribers they have for Xbox Live. Even compared to Game Pass, there's way more subscribers to Xbox Live.
Well, and there's speculation
there are signs that it is.
Lower the price and roll it all into one big ball.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's kind of what they did with Ultimate.
Yes.
I get that there's more in there.
But if they lower the price of Ultimate, say you're paying $2 more than you're paying for Xbox Live, I don't know how the math checks out on that, but they might find that it's justifiable.
Hell, I mean, both Xbox Live and the lower-end Game Pass are $10, so they might just roll it over and count it good.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that we could see. There's so many questions right now, and obviously we don't have much to speculate on, just a trailer that was CG in the first place. But it's just, there are rumors swirling, and that's kind of why we wanted to get into this stuff.
And speculation's fun.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, like, I'm trying to keep it as realistic or as grounded in things that I think they could implement. Yeah. Do I think they could implement all of them? No. Do I think that they could implement quite a few of them, or at least to some degree? Yeah, I
think everything here can be implemented, just not all together in a package.
Right. And the main thing that I don't want to lose with this MMO style is it has to be, Fable. At the end of the day, it still has to be Fable. It has to have the fun story that's a little dark, sometimes a lot of dark, but also can bounce into something funny. There has to be characters and regions, and I guess that's the main thing. We don't want to lose Albion over this.
No.
There's just so many things they can do. They need to get the things they need to get right first.
Yep.
And then that's when they, start adding the bells and whistles. Take some risks. Look at things that they think will work. And obviously, the people behind this are tremendously smarter than we are as far as what they probably have ideas that we haven't even thought about.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious.
Well, and one thing to include is they wanted to make a fantasy game even before they got the rights to make Fable.
Right. So there's got to be probably some
whatever they were making in there,
things that they were wanting to do that they think that they could do differently than everybody else. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for the speculation episode of ZeroXP. Before we go, we'd like to give a special thanks to those who helped us contribute to the show. ZeroXP logo was designed by Jameson Johns. You can find him at behance.net/Jameson Johns. Music provided by Odd Reference. Find him at facebook.com/odd.reference. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, or review on your podcast service of choice. If you're on the YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, constructive criticisms, you can contact us at ZeroXP Podcast on Twitter or email us at zeroxppodcast@gmail.com. Or if you're on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment. We respond to all of them.
And a quick thanks to everyone who has helped inspire us to do this show. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Charlie. And as always, until next time, stay safe out there. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
It's not an MMO.
Bye-bye.